Okay, so you just got yourself a new Airbnb, you got it furnished, you're going down the list of things you need, and you just realized that you forgot the smart lock. So you go onto Amazon, Google, YouTube, you do your research, and you realize there are a ton of smart locks out there. Now you're stuck wondering which one to get. And in this video, I am going to describe the pros and cons of these two smart locks, and hopefully that will help you decide which one's best for you. So we'll be talking about two smart locks. The first one is called the Schlage Encode Wi-Fi smart lock, and the second one is called the Eufy smart lock. Pretty interesting names now that I think about it. So first tip, when you're looking at smart locks, you'll see a variety of smart locks that seem to be on a cheaper end. Like they'll have a good discount, they'll be more affordable, roughly around like the 130 to 170 range, which is a good deal for a smart lock. But the catch is, some of the smart locks require a bridge. A Wi-Fi bridge is just another accessory that you need to have so that your smart lock can communicate with your Wi-Fi router, which is why I recommend the Wi-Fi enabled smart locks. That way you don't need the bridge and the smart lock itself will connect to your Wi-Fi. So doing a quick Amazon search, the Schlage lock is at the moment of this recording, Thursday, July 15th, 2021, it is $224.37. Then we will take a look at the Eufy security smart lock, and that one at this moment is $259.99. And the crazy thing about this one is that on Amazon Prime Day, it was only $169. And I do think they do that deal often, maybe around Christmas time or Black Friday. So if we're comparing the two locks based on price as of right now, the Schlage would be the cheaper option, but if you were going to compare them based on their best price sales, the Eufy wins. You just have to catch it at the right time. All right, so first I'm going to go over some of the pros that I've listed down about the Schlage, and then we'll do the pros and cons for the Eufy. So, pros on the Schlage Encode smart lock. It's Wi-Fi. They're both Wi-Fi, so that's a plus. The Schlage can store up to 100 user codes. You can control this one remotely from your smartphone, which is the same with the Eufy. They both have their own apps. Pretty user-friendly. I will say, actually, the Schlage is a little bit more user-friendly, but more on that later. Now, the benefit of the Schlage over the Eufy is that it can set up temporary codes, which is very useful for short-term Airbnb guests. Now, the Eufy can do that too, but it's not as simple. But as for the Schlage, it's very user-friendly. You go into the app, select what day you want the code to start activating and what day it is deactivated, and the user interface is just very simple and clean. Setting up both of these smart locks are fairly easy. I've set up two Schlages so far, and each time I never really had issues. Honestly, I've swapped out a lot of locks now with all this Airbnb stuff, so I've gotten pretty used to it. As long as you have like two people and you know how to use a screwdriver and have a drill, you'll be fine. Battery life on the Schlage is good. It takes 4 AA batteries. It really depends on how many people you have coming in and out of the house. Obviously, the more people coming in and out using the code, the quicker it's going to be drained. If you're always unlocking it through Wi-Fi through your phone, that's going to drain it as well. If it's always auto-locking by itself because nobody's locking the door properly, that will also impact battery life. With 4 AA batteries, I'm getting through a year swapping it out 3 to 5 times, give or take. The design on the Schlage is very sleek. It's got a matte finish, at least the one I had, which gives it a very mid-modern century look. One thing I have to commend Schlage for is the warranty, because I'm currently on my 3rd Schlage right now on my first Airbnb unit. Basically, I had my first Schlage smart lock for over a year, and then randomly one day it just stopped working. I think it was due to my tenants not properly locking it, which would then force it to auto lock. And then if it's not shut completely, the motors will engage and it'll get jammed. And I think that had to do something with why it stopped working. But basically it stopped working one day and we couldn't use it at all. So we had to go back to the manual key, which is a bonus because both these locks have their own manual key. So that's not all completely digital because that would not be good. I reached out to Schlage customer support via email. They were very understanding and they actually sent out a new one for free. I didn't even have to send the old one back in. So I was very impressed with them for that and commend them for their warranty. I haven't been able to test out the Eufy's warranty yet because I've only had it for about a month, if that. But since it is an Amazon product and it was sold by Amazon, I can already assume it's going to be a really good warranty coverage because Amazon's pretty good with their warranty. One of my most favorite features about the Schlage is that you can share these codes very easily. Basically, whenever you create a code, there's an option to share it. And when you share it, it'll copy this preloaded text explaining how to operate the lock, when it works, how to lock it. And that's very convenient for me when I'm sending it to my Airbnb guests, because if you ever dealt with Airbnb guests, you really got to explain them how to use everything as if they're a child. You just gotta be extra descriptive so that they don't mess up and break your locks. Okay, so those are the pros of the Schlage. Now let's go to the cons. Sometimes it does not connect to the lock. I'll be on the app trying to create a new code, and then when I'm ready to create it, it'll just be stuck on the screens and then it'll say error. This has been happening more and more lately. I'm not sure why, but that's the most annoying thing about this lock that I've experienced. Just the fact that the app doesn't work as it should. And then I'll have to restart the phone, turn it back on, and then I'll be able to operate it. The other con is that this lock only accepts 4-digit codes, where the Eufy can take up to an 8-digit code. It's not really a con for me because I only ever give my guests 4-digit codes since it's easier to input. If you're someone who really, really likes security, then more numbers, the more secure your code will be. This last con that I put isn't really that bad, but basically the matte black design that I chose is kind of tough to see at night, especially when you're trying to enter the code. So you got to press another button to light up the screen. But if you press a number by accident, then you just inputted the wrong number, and then you have to wait and then re-input the right number. So yes, that could be a con, but it's not the end of the world. I just tell people to use their phone as a flashlight so they can see the keypad. All right, and that's basically it for all the pros and cons of the Schlage. Let's move over to the Eufy and see what we got. The first thing I noticed with the Eufy smart lock is that it was super easy to install. Amazon had this whole instruction guide on how to do it, and they made it very user-friendly, as if they were explaining it to a child. Whole process only took about 5 to 10 minutes, and that was just me going slow with it, but it was very easy to do. This smart lock can also take up to 100 codes, and like I said, it can take a 4 to 8-digit pin instead of a 4-digit on the Schlage. One of the cool factors about this one is that it also takes a fingerprint. You wouldn't be doing this for your Airbnb guests, but you can do it for yourself, cleaners, or maintenance. Anyone who will have constant access to this house can have their own fingerprint registered, and all they do is just touch the fingerprint. It'll unlock and lock in seconds. Definitely my favorite feature. This lock also has a very sleek design. It's got its own keyhole for you to use a manual key just in case, and the way the key slot is covered is very unique. You really gotta use your fingernail to open it. Amazon is advertising this battery to last up to 18 months. Which is kind of insane. I really like this battery better because it's a battery pack that is rechargeable via micro USB, so you don't have to worry about constantly swapping out new batteries for this thing. If this thing can last at least a year on one charge, I'll be happy. A very unique feature about this smart lock is the fact that in the case that everything was dead and you're on the outside, you could theoretically grab a battery pack, connect a micro USB cable in here, and then connect it to the front of the smart lock to give it power and to turn it on again. That's insane. That was very smart, because for the Schlage, if it were to die and you didn't have a key to unlock it, you would be SOL. Now, few cons. There are a few cons here. The first con I will say is that it is a little tough to operate and not as instinctive as the Schlage. When you go to a smart lock, the first thing you would think to do is just enter the code and it will unlock. With the Eufy, you have to turn on the keypad by pressing any button, and then once the numbers are lit up, then you can enter your code, and then after that you have to press the home button to unlock the door. That's a lot of steps for an Airbnb guest who may have never used a smart lock before. And I've already had a lot of people have issues with it. So since then, I've printed out a detailed instruction guide, taped it right to the front door, and since then, it's been a lot better. The other con is how you lock the actual lock. The first method is fingerprint, which is actually great. That's awesome that you can use your fingerprint to lock it, but that's only geared towards me or the cleaner, not for the Airbnb guest. If you were the guest and did not have your fingerprint in or a key, then the only way it would lock is if you shut it and press and hold the lock button for at least 3 seconds, or let it auto lock. And I hate letting it auto lock because these Airbnb guests never know how to fully close the door. They'll half shut it or not shut it at all, and then it'll either get jammed by auto locking or it'll auto lock and the door was never closed. So auto lock, not a big fan of. It's a good fail safe in case they honestly forgot to lock it, but they close the door fully shut, so that's good. But it is pretty inconvenient for someone who's never used this before to just stand there, press and hold the lock button when they would instinctively think just to press the lock button once and let go. So Eufy, please change that feature, because not a fan at all. Actually, nobody I've talked to is a fan of that feature. You are also an Airbnb host.
You got it.
I recommended you the Schlage Encode. That's what it's called, it's a smart lock. I use it on my other 2 Airbnbs. But since then, I found this new guy. It's called the Eufy by Amazon. You just used it for the first time. Was it easy to use? How do you like it? What questions do you got?
Okay, so between the Schlage and the Eufy, I personally prefer the Schlage over this one. Here's why. When I had to do the 4-digit code, I felt like I had to put a bit more force for it to actually feel my finger and open it. I do, however, like the Eufy over the Schlage because it has the fingerprint. That is a really nice thing to have. I don't like that you have to hold the lock button, because with the Schlage you just have to quick press it. It would be difficult for, say, a guest. They could forget to hold it and then the door's open. But the Schlage, you can have a time limit on when it locks automatically. So for us, we have it for 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, the door will lock out automatically no matter what. It's my honest opinion. I prefer the Schlage over the Eufy.
Another con is that it is very tough to share the code. Remember how I showed you in Schlage there was like a button to just share it? Eufy, I have not seen one button to do that. Hopefully they can add it, but as of now, I have a pre-typed message in Airbnb that I can send people, and then I'll just input the code after that. And then the last con is setting up temporary codes is pretty confusing. I tried it once for one of my first Airbnb guests, and it didn't work out well, and they got locked out. So instead, I just left all my codes to be on all the time, and then I'll just manually change the codes so that the number's not used over again. The UI on the app isn't as clean as it could be, or at least compared to Schlage, it's not as clean, but what are you gonna do? Okay, so conclusion time. So what would I recommend for any new Airbnb hosts out there? At the end of the day, I think that the Schlage Encode is more user-friendly for both the host and the Airbnb guests, and the Eufy would be really good for someone who actually lives at the home as their primary residence, mainly due to the fingerprint feature. But if your budget is an issue and the Eufy is more affordable than the Schlage, then I would go with the Eufy just because it has all these extra features for a good price. Now, if you were in the market for a smart lock today for Airbnb and it's between those two, I would just go with the one that is more cheaply priced because they both will do the job well. And if you plan on expanding your units and properties, then try to keep it all in one system. It'll make it a lot easier to navigate through. They're both good locks. They're both going to do the job. They both have their issues and quirks, so you just gotta pick your poison and decide which one you want to have more. Congrats to anybody out there who just got their first Airbnb and is ready to start this journey. It's a fun one, I promise you that. It's a lot of work, but totally worth it. Tell me in the comments below, which smart lock do you have? Which one do you like more between the Eufy and the Schlage? And with that, if this video brought you any type of value, I would highly appreciate it if you liked the video. It really helps spread the message around to any other viewers out there. And also, please subscribe, completely free to do so, and you'll always be notified whenever I upload a new video, and then you can follow me for the journey. With that, I will see you next time.